how do you turn what you love to do into a viable career path so you can make money and there's not this rift between here's what I love and here's what I have to do to make money? How do we merge that into one? Well, Paul Graham, who is the founder of Y Combinator, and he wrote this paper, this essay called How to Do What You Love. So today I'm going to share with you 2 or 3 of my favorite points from that essay, because this theme of like, what do I want to do with my life and how do I make what I want to do integrate with my career have been the 2 biggest questions of my life right now. The first point that I absolutely love from him is a point where he says, always produce. Always produce means, he calls it a heuristic, and a heuristic is kind of like a thing to live by, a principle. So his heuristic of always produce means, you know, say you want to be a musician and you have a day job right now and you want to be a musician or some kind of artist, do something creative. Always produce means actually be always making the things that you want to make, regardless of the circumstance, to the best of your ability. Because he says you can be sitting there and you can be, he uses the idea of a novelist. You can imagine day after day writing your great book, but are you actually sitting down every day and writing pages, even if the pages suck? Because if you're actually writing, then you're moving in the direction of your goal. Whereas if not, then it's just this hazy idea and you're kind of getting off on the idea that it might someday happen, and it will just lead to frustration and disappointment and depression. So always produce. I love that. He says something so beautiful. I wish I had the quote in front of me, but he basically says, if you're always producing, you will naturally be gravitating towards creating the stuff that is most true and most exciting for you, which means that you're going to find your purpose the way that water follows gravity down a drain. He says it way better than that, but it's like that always producing creates this gravity where you're flowing with the natural resonance of your heart, and you're always kind of making stuff that is the most real for you. And in doing that, you're gonna discover what it is that you really want to spend all your time doing. If you think of social media, that's the whole game, right? It's like, if you can produce consistent art or speech that resonates with people, then you can amass a following on social media, and you could like build a course around the thing that you're super into, or you could have some kind of like paid community where people pay to see you like doodle or talk or play synthesizers or whatever, you know? It's incredible what's possible, and I love that heuristic, always produce. The second thing that he talks about that I found interesting is you can determine whether you want to take the 1 job path or the 2 job path. He basically says that you can assess, okay, are you someone like an architect who ultimately wants to become a product designer? Because if so, those things are close enough that you might be able to stay in the same career, but just minimize the aspects of that career that you don't like and focus on the 20% aspects that you do like. As you become more established in your role, you can start to delegate the things that you don't like and be more choosy. In that path, you can stay in the same job and just build into the aspects of that job that you love, and then you win. Alternatively, he says, if you're an architect, but your actual passion is music, then you probably need to go a 2-job approach where, you know, you're doing what you need to do for money, and then you are building up the passion on the side by always producing. And I think that this is kind of obvious, but it's also beautiful because it gives permission. It's like, that's basically what all of these courses that people pay for are. It's like someone of authority and of wisdom giving you permission to act upon the things that you already know you should be doing. Paul Graham is effectively giving us permission here mentally to be like, yeah, it's okay to have 2 jobs if your passion is way different than what you're currently doing. So I'd say always be producing content on social media as well is a really big deal, because in order to make money from something, it's like people probably need to know about it, you know? Just on the most practical level, one of the laws of marketing is like, if you don't have traffic, which means eyeballs, people coming to your offer, you're not going to be able to get a return. So the last point I think is really potent here is he talks about the bounds of how much you enjoy something. He's like, if you never define how much you're supposed to like your job, then you'll never know if you hit your goal or not. And he actually says that most people really underestimate how much they should like it. If they just think it's like fine and passable and like pretty good, that he actually says that's not enough. He basically is saying your minimum should be that you enjoy what you're doing to the extent that spare time seems like a flawed idea. It's not like you do your thing and then you have spare time outside of it. Ideally, you can create something where there is no such thing as spare time. There's just an integrated life where you love what you do. He also says that creating this is very hard and that most people aren't able to achieve it, which is interesting. But what I do think is interesting about that is he also says, like, we're never gonna like something as much as we just enjoy the temporary enjoyment of floating in the ocean of the Caribbean, or of having sex, or, you know, getting up and eating a piece of candy or something like that. We're not looking for our life to necessarily give us always that level of short-term dopamine per se. The thing that he says though is, you know, you spend enough time at the beach without having some kind of purposeful goal that does have challenges involved, and you get sick of it. So the goal is not to have your career always feel as good as eating a piece of candy while you're having sex on the beach in the Caribbean, but your goal is to do something that makes you feel fulfilled over a longer span of time, like a week or a month. In summary, the 3 things that I took from this essay that I think are so powerful is always be creating, always be producing, and that will help you find clarity in your life around what you really want to be doing. Secondly, figure out if your job is close enough to what you want to be doing already that you can just kind of, you know, pivot and delegate into something that fully matches your resonance, or if it might make sense for you to at least temporarily have your job and your passion split. This is what I have right now. I'm on the 2-job path, and I'm producing to figure out what my ideal career really looks like, because I'm not actually fully sure what my perfect career looks like to me. So I'm trying to stay in this mode of always producing, and I'm in like a occasionally producing mode, but I'm working on it. Thirdly, the standard of your fulfillment in your work is, do you feel fulfilled over a longer time frame, like a week or a month when you're doing what you're doing? Not comparing it to like the impossibly beautiful joy of making love on the beach in the Caribbean, floating in the water, etc. So at the same time, not shortchanging yourself and making sure that what you're doing is aimed at a high goal of fulfillment, like to the extent that free time becomes a flawed premise. So those are the 3 things I got from the video, from the essay. I will leave a link to the essay down below because I think it's so awesome, and there's so many other essays that he's written that are just like so mind expanding and powerful. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Much love.